This episode of the podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/lightscameranonsense. Visit patreon.com/lightscameranonsense to help support your favorite new movie podcast. Now, let's roll that reel.
It's fucking with me. It really is.
Is this
Casey,
the whole middle name?
I need a fake middle name. Who's the first... What? Horace?
Wow,
That's
like
an actual
legitimate middle name. You know what? That's a good bit.
All right. I'm keeping this in. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lights, Camera, Nonsense, where we give you all the latest movie magic you may have missed. I'm Nick, suggested by the audience, Horace.
And I'm Zach Yeetmeister Smith.
Oh, okay. Well, and on March 13th, 2021, let's dive into the previews. But before we do that, Zach.
Oh, God. You're pointing at me.
A quick housekeeping for you. Please, if you'd like to, if you're watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so that you can get notified every time we upload a new episode of the podcast onto YouTube. However, if you'd like to see it a day early, you can go over to our Patreon, support us as low as $1, and you can check it on our Patreon one day early. If you want to get it even earlier than that, and you don't want to see our ugly mugs, and you just want to subscribe to our audio podcasts, we are on Spotify, iTunes, not SoundCloud. I almost said SoundCloud. Radio FM, SoundCloud. Just any audio platform where they host podcasts, we're on there. Do you listen to us on Amazon Music? We're on there too. So follow us on that. Give us 5 stars, a thumbs up on that, however many different ways people rate our podcasts. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, but sometimes it's more palatable just to hear us as opposed to like having to witness us.
It's a lot.
You know?
It's a lot.
Sometimes that's too much for the human psyche to even...
Especially when we change how our podcast looks every week. Because we're constantly changing things. We're constantly forgetting supplies. We won't point any fingers here, but it was this guy pointing at me.
Point.
Yes.
You started with a point.
Yeah.
It's going to be the point episode.
So you may hear the audio version early, but you won't get all of the great visual gags from the video podcast.
Like actually gagging.
That's probably
That's probably bad for the audio.
Whoops. Okay, well.
Everybody loses with that one.
Yeah, we really, we're starting off great with this episode. So, Zach, before we dive into the previews, even more so, something's different about this podcast, isn't there?
We're a week older.
Yes.
We
are now doing the podcast week to week. We used to do it 2 weeks at a time. Okay. Can you move your headphones back? Are they leaning forward? Do you do that on purpose?
I don't know.
There you go. I don't know. It's weird to me.
Okay.
It was... Anyway.
You're weird. I know, right? I'm just sitting here.
Hey, audience. Pipe down over there. With your metal mug on your wooden table.
Well, this is good for even the video, too.
Yeah,
because
I'm really
it's
trying to exclude as many
see.
people as possible. Yeah. Anyway, we're now doing the podcast week to week, which means we're gonna be covering even more news, even more things that we watched. However, with a shorter episode, so it's a little bit more digestible for your ears or eyes or fingers, however you consume the podcast. Yeah. Thank you.
That's the sound of digits.
Thank you, Foley artist, Zach Smith. Let's dive into the previews finally. Zach, what have you been watching?
So Nick, this go around, I just watched one thing.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I watched the new HBO Max Tom and Jerry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
It's a good question. I hadn't watched anything at the time, so I was like, I need to watch something, but I'm not sure if I want to watch something new. I was hovering over Fellowship of the Ring for like the 20th time.
Yeah.
I was like,
even though you own it, like physically?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but then I'd have to get up and go get, put it
a whole ordeal.
This calls back to our physical media discussion.
That we've had multiple times?
Literally last week. Yeah, I was hovering over that, and I was like, do I feel like this nice, comfortable thing that just fills me with joy, and I'll come out of it being like, oh, the world's so nice right now. I shed a tear of joy. And I'm just living life, loving and living life. And then I went, no, I should probably watch something that, one, I haven't seen before, and two, also would not bring me joy whatsoever.
Yeah, so can you think of a good live-action CGI hybrid?
Space Jam.
Have you gone back and watched Space Jam?
Absolutely, I have.
In anticipation for Space Jam 2? Whoops.
Well, not that recently, no. But I have watched it within the last 5 years.
Okay. Maybe it's just me.
Does Roger Rabbit count?
Yes.
That was part CG, yes?
Part CG, part hand-drawn.
Yes.
But yeah.
Then that's the one.
That's the
That's
one.
the one.
Probably the best example. All right, never mind. I'll eat this crow.
God. Yeah, so Tom and Jerry, 2021.
Yes.
This is a 90s movie brought to you 30 years later.
So this is what I heard, is that it's really kind of its time, even though it feels out of time.
Yes, yeah. It is very much of the, we are going to make a quick cash grab movie because we need something to fill out the slate for the year.
Yeah.
We're not going to think about why we're doing it. Get someone who can write up a script super quickly.
Get that rising star, Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yes, Chloe Grace Moretz.
Which seems like a dig at her. It's really not. She's a great actress.
She is. And to her credit, I think she knows. I think everyone in this movie knows what it is.
Right.
So no one's like really trying to be like, I'm gonna be the best part of this movie. You know, they're just like,
I mean, when
one, they're there for a paycheck. Two, they're, you know, they might enjoy like the hamminess of it. Yeah, so general setup of Tom and Jerry 2021 is that we start off with Tom arriving in New York City via trolley or bus or something. I don't remember.
From the cartoon world that they live in?
No, there's no... Okay, so right up front, no mention of the fact that cartoons are mixing with live action.
They're the only cartoons?
Whatsoever. No.
Oh.
All the animals are cartoons.
In the whole world?
In the entire world.
In
birds, peacocks, elephants, tigers, mice, cats, dogs.
Only humans are real.
Only humans are real in this Tom and Jerry universe. All the animals are animated.
It's so confusing.
And they don't mention it at all. Oh, goldfish? There's a goldfish?
Is it the goldfish from... Oh, I almost did Cat in the Hat. No, that's Dr. Seuss. But...
So, like, most of the, I guess, quote, central animals are from the old cartoons.
Right, okay.
So you have, you know, Tom, Jerry, Pete.
Gotcha.
Is that... No, not Pete. What's his name? The dog.
Well, okay. I'm trying to remember which characters are from Tom and Jerry, because it's been a while since I've watched the show. Is the one that's
Butch. No, wait, that's a alley cat, I think.
Right. So there's the big bulky one, right?
The dog?
The dog, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
He's
That's
a character.
Spike.
Yeah, I think it's Spike.
Yeah.
It's something like most like military people name their dogs when they come home.
Pretty sure it's Spike.
Yeah,
and then, Spike.
So is the one with like the jowls that goes, I need a hamburger today for
Droopy?
Droopy, yeah.
Yeah. He is in this.
Okay.
It's very brief. So there's a scene, I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but to respond to your question, there's a scene in which Tom and Jerry end up in a pound. I'm not sure why animal control is bothering with a mouse to throw it in a cage.
They would have killed it.
Yeah, but they do. So they end up at like the animal control place. And as they're being walked to their cell, you know, they treat it like jail. Like, you're going to spend a lot of time in here.
Do they wear the black and white stripe?
Yeah, well, not so much. There's like a little bit of that, but when they pass Droopy is in a cell. And when they pass him, he's all decked out in like Hannibal Lecter.
So what the fuck? What the fuck is this movie?
He's got like the straight jacket and the mask on.
Yeah. Well, who was that joke for? Well, it's for the parents who have to take their kids.
Parents, exactly.
But like, even then, the parents who are taking their kids to go see this movie are parents who probably were born before that movie came out. Silence of the Lambs?
No,
or, like,
Silence of the
after,
Lambs was
sorry,
91.
after.
Oh, you okay?
Like our generation.
I would argue that you also have a fairly sizable cross reference or a cross contamination, I guess, of older folks maybe going back and watching it with like grandkids. Yeah,
maybe. Although grandparents shouldn't be going to the movie theater.
No one should be going to the movie theater.
That's right. Just leave a long pause.
So going a little ways back, so the premise is you get Tom, he arrives in New York City. Jerry is already there. He's looking for a place to live, but he doesn't have money. So
why do you need money? You're a mouse.
Apparently, mice need money to rent spaces because it starts with Jerry being shown by a mouse realtor, which is the only thing I could possibly phrase it as. Do the other cartoon animals speak? Yes.
Like Droopy obviously does.
Every animal speaks.
Except for Tom and Jerry.
Except for Tom and Jerry, yes. So they're the only ones that don't, when they say things, it's all mimed and pantomime, that kind of thing. But yeah, everyone else speaks.
So that makes no sense in the continuity of this world where there's humans are real, the world is real, all the animals are cartoons, and they can talk like humans.
So my response to this is, you're right, it doesn't make sense. However, it's the right call, because anytime they've done Tom and Jerry speak, it's one, not good, two, pisses off all the Tom and Jerry fans all over the world.
Well, because there's no precedent for them having voices other than
at this point there are, but it's all in like the bad movies, like at the Crown Jewel or
who do you think would voice Tom and Jerry? Like using voice actors or performers today. So is there a joke in the movie about it?
There's a little bit of a joke in the movie because Tom is in New York to become famous because he's a piano player who's actually really good.
Okay.
And there's a scene where he's singing while playing, and I don't remember who it is. It is a rapper, but it's auto-tuned to hell.
Okay. I'm gonna look this up.
So, like, that's the only time there's like an actual voice coming out from him, and the screams, the oh type scream. If you watch Tom and Jerry,
right, the classic, it was recorded 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm,
same scream.
But to be honest, I can't really think of anyone that would voice them. But yeah, so Tom's in New York to be famous. He's a piano player. Jerry's being shown like a hollowed out junk car to live in, and he's like, I don't want to fucking live here. So,
but miming that.
Yeah. So then you get to Tom in the park pretending to be blind to earn tips from playing because, blind cat playing a piano. Because cat playing a piano isn't enough in this world.
Right.
It's got to be blind. So establishing one, Tom is still a shithill.
Yeah.
Then Jerry comes up and is like, so at this point, I'm not aware if Tom and Jerry actually know each other in this universe, or if it's just like, this is the first time they met. And
like it's an origin story.
What. So because they don't say that, what the scene reads off as, Tom and Jerry walks over to Tom, sees that he's blind, and decides, I'm gonna scam this blind person off the tips he's earning by replacing his blind cat piano sign with my dancing mouse sign and put my tip jar in front of his.
Okay.
So now people are tipping Jerry instead of the blind cat.
Anyway,
it is later, much later in the movie, like 20 minutes to go, maybe 30. It's said that you guys have been going at this for years. Like, have you tried to get along? So like, if you take that at face value, then they have known each other forever. So that makes a little bit more sense in that context, because Jerry would know that Tom's not actually blind. But in the context at the start where you can't tell, it just seems like Jerry's willingly robbing a blind person.
I think it works out better if they had never met each other. In the continuity of this movie, It makes more sense that way.
So
that's funny.
They end up fighting. Tom's piano breaks because Jerry's like doing the thing where he's jumping all over it. They run out into the street. Chloe Grace Moretz is riding a bike with a bunch of fucking clothes for some reason. Tom like barrels into her, and I don't know what her job at this point is, but because she got ran over by a cat and mouse and the clothes ended up in the street, she's fired from whatever job she has, because the next thing you see her in, she's on the phone with her boss, and he's like, I can't believe you let all those clothes drop in the street. You're fired.
Were they like in a shopping cart or something?
No, well, I mean, she was on a bike, and they were like on the front of the bike.
Oh, like in packaging and everything?
No, they're loose clothes. Dude, I don't know.
I like how this is the part that's tripping you up, not the cartoon animals.
Very first part of the movie, you're introed by singing pigeons.
Perfect. The only way to intro a movie.
Yeah. Not just singing pigeons, rapping pigeons. Who later sing.
I feel like there's something that should be said social commentary wise about rapping pigeons.
So what I'll say is this. A lot of this movie, one, feels like it was written in a day. Two, feels like it was written in a day by committee.
By like the board.
Yeah. Like, how can we appeal to the youth of today? Singing pigeons.
Rapping pigeons.
Rapping pigeons, excuse me.
Because so technically, is Tom and Jerry a Disney? It's not a Disney company.
No, it's MGM, Hanna-Barbera, yeah. Which is why it's on HBO Max,
right,
with the simultaneous theatrical release.
Sorry, I automatically just smush everything together.
So I'm going to try and speed up here because I'm spending a lot of time on it. So Chloe Grace Moretz ends up faking a job interview to get hired at this really prestigious hotel, which is holding a wedding for like these super famous people. You don't really hear what they do other than at one point they're on Instagram, but that's it.
Okay.
And the rest of the movie is Tom has taken up residence, or Jerry has taken up residence in the hotel. And Chloe Grace Moretz, who is seen as suspicious by Michael Pena. Is that how you say his name?
Yes. With the tilde over there.
Yes. For those unfamiliar, he's the friend from Ant-Man that does the whole meme, like, oh, you think you missed that? You know, that guy.
Yeah.
He's suspicious of her, but he tasks her to get rid of the mouse in the hotel because they have this big wedding planned and nothing can go wrong. She then hires Tom via sequence of events to help her get rid of Jerry. And then one thing leads to another. There's a whole subplot about how the people getting married, the guy is not a good communicator, of course, and is not listening to.
These are like tertiary characters.
Yes,
I don't give
absolutely.
A fuck about.
But it's the plot. The plot is tertiary character. The movie.
The whole point is trying to just gags with Tom and Jerry. That's
correct. Yeah, it's basically just coming up with reasons to do gags. At one point, it is just blatantly shown that, you know, the big dust bowl that cartoon characters can get into when they're fighting.
Yeah,
that becomes like a Category 5 hurricane.
I'm sorry, what?
Is that right? Category 5. That
the
goes
worst.
Up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking destructive as shit.
Like it's tearing down buildings and stuff?
More or less, dying? Yeah.
They're killing people.
They could, yeah, if you got caught in it. Michael Pena actually does get caught in it at one point, and it's like if you were outside of the house in The Wizard of Oz.
I see you're peeking a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to do about that.
just like a smidge further away from the mic. You'll be all right there.
Yeah.
The problem was, and this is why I moved the mic closer to me, was because I was worried that I was going to be doing the exact same thing you were doing last time. So this, I think, is a good distance, as long as it's about 6 inches.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'll try that.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll peak a little less.
Last name is Wizard of Oz.
Yes. So that, like, that's the image that they're going with, is that the cartoon cloud is so destructive that you feasibly could die in it.
Jesus.
Yeah, and then it ends, the whole...
Is the Tasmanian devil a terrorist?
By this movie's logic, maybe, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, there's a subplot with Chloe Grace Moretz being friends with a bartender, too, who backs her up. Eventually, she's, like, in control of the wedding. Like, she's the reason it's either going to fail or not.
What?
But then Tom and Jerry get in the way, and they end up causing disaster, of course. So then they got to learn to work together to save the marriage of the wedding that they ruined. It's a whole thing, man.
Dude, I'm so confused. I'm curious. I kind of want to watch the movie just to see how much of a train wreck it is. But like, would you recommend it to somebody?
No.
Okay.
I can't imagine this being anything other than a time sink. Unless you're like a big Tom and Jerry fan, like I mean big,
right?
Because yeah, like I said, you do have all the characters coming back. You have Spike. There's the white cat who's named Toots in this, which I think is a callback to in the cartoons. She was just referred to as Toots. You got the Alley Cats with like Butch. I don't know if you are up on your Tom and Jerry lore.
I'm not.
If you've seen Tom and Jerry enough times, you'll notice these characters popping in.
I think, because I was looking at the voice cast earlier. But Spike is voiced by Bonnie Cannavale, who's been in like multiple mobster shows and stuff like that. Butch is voiced by Nicky Jam.
Yeah, they
I don't know who that is.
They do a questionable thing.
He's a singer.
He's a rapper. Where all the Alley Cats are rappers.
Why is everyone a rapper in this movie?
To appeal to the youth, man.
I guess, but like
that's the demo. That's the target demo.
They're not even rappers that I recognize, and I listen to plenty of rap.
You can't spend too much money. You gotta
on Tom and Jerry.
You gotta get like the C-
on the one of those movies that fills in the slate.
Yes,
so that it
you
can
gotta
take
get
away
like
from
the C tier rappers on there.
Take that, Nicky Jam.
Sorry, Nick. All that to say, that's way too in depth than the movie deserves, honestly. But like you'll see they do like bits in there too, like classic bits.
The hammer,
the one where Jerry's pretending like he has something in his hand and is like his back is facing Tom, and Tom's like, "Oh, what do you got there?"
Yeah,
and then when he gets like around his shoulder, Jerry just like fucking punches him in the nose.
Okay,
it's
a very violent movie,
but I mean it's not as violent. So it's not as violent as the HBO Max Looney Tunes, right? Which I've gone very in depth on at this point,
multiple times.
It's not Lovecraftian in its nature. But it is like, kind of old school violent, like cannonball firing type. You fell 30 stories and were struck by lightning and somehow you're not dead sort of thing. It's classic slapstick. But it's classic slapstick with it. We need an excuse to show that, so let's get as bare bones of a plot in here as possible. And I said a little earlier, I think everybody involved knows what it is, so they're kind of playing up the hamminess. I wouldn't say it's horrible. I don't feel like my time was utilized to its most effective.
Is it only like an hour and a half?
It's 90 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's over pretty quickly, thankfully. It doesn't overstay its welcome too long. There are parts where I do feel like it drags a little bit, which is not good for a 90-minute movie. But I can't in good conscience tell anyone to go watch this.
Okay.
I don't think it was the worst thing I've ever seen. Probably like a 4 or 5 out of 10.
Eesh.
I mean, I think the Rotten Tomatoes meter score right now is at like a 25, so take that.
So it's like, it's not even worth it if you were...
It's not a bad watch. When I say it's a 90s animated movie, it is a 90s animated straight to VHS movie.
Right, but you wouldn't say, yeah, go see it in theaters. You would say, just watch it at home.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No feasible. It looks pretty good. You know, like the tech is there. All the animated characters look crisp and they don't like stick out, you know, more than they should. That's kind of a weird way to phrase it. It doesn't look bad, the merging between the animated and the live action.
Right.
But yeah, there's feasibly no reason to see this in theaters. Absolutely not. It's probably the one, I bet it'll be one of the ones that benefits the most from the theatrical simultaneous debut on HBO Max, because it's one of those things where, much like I did, people will be like, yeah, it's a theater movie that's, you know, being released on streaming. I'll take advantage. I'll watch it, you know.
Or parents who just don't want to bother getting their kids strapped into the car, taking them to the movie theater.
And it is a kids movie the week after Raya too.
Yeah. But
you don't have to pay the premium
yeah.
that you do on Raya. Raya, hands down, way better movie.
For sure.
That's not
From
even
what it sounds like. Yeah.
Not even an argument. I'll probably watch Raya again.
And most movie theaters aren't even playing Raya. Like there are select movie theaters that are playing
theaters,
it.
Yeah,
but it's
but this would be a quote cheaper alternative to Raya, but you know, cheaper.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, you get what you pay for. Not necessarily, because on the same service you have Judas and the Black Messiah, which is fucking phenomenal. And of course, our talk about how phenomenal it is got lost to the ether. All that to say, Tom and Jerry, solid meh.
Okay.
But that's it for me. What did you watch?
You got 5 minutes for me? We got just a little bit of time for me. Perfect. I've been watching Riverdale.
You kept asking me questions about Tom and Jerry.
It's not my fault. You were like, I gotta get into the plot. We gotta talk about this wedding going on. I'm just messing with you. Fucking Tom and Jerry. You gotta get into it. Anyway, I've just been watching Riverdale. And we're in the 4th season. I'm not gonna go into it with this show because I've casually mentioned it over the last 2 years.
It's interesting that you keep going back to it, because I feel like several times you've been like, I'm done with this show.
Because it's a guilty pleasure. It's one of those shows where you're like most of the CW roster, you're just like, why am I watching this? What is with all the drama that doesn't have to be there, but the characters, because of how cartoonish they are in personality and writing, it's
supposed to function that way, right? Like, that's the point.
Right.
At least from what I've heard.
Well, a large number of the roster of CW shows are based off of comics, like Riverdale, like the Arrowverse, like the spin-offs off of Riverdale. There's they're not spin-offs of the comics of Archie, but it's Sabrina. You got Nancy Drew. You've got what is it, like Kate something?
Spade.
Kate Keene, I think. Katie Keene. A character no one had ever heard of, or at least no one I had ever heard of. And then they made a whole show about her because she has her own spin-off comic as well. Doesn't matter. Show is really, really just all about squeezing as much drama as you can out of a cast of characters that are written by, obviously, men for the female characters. Yeah. And it's just so cheesy and hammy, and it's delicious. It's like eating cheesecake when you're lactose intolerant. It's like, this is bad for me, but
I love it.
I'm having a good time.
I'm having a good time now. Afterwards, not so much.
Yeah, you're gonna regret it once the credits roll, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna eat this again later. I know, because I'm not finished with it. Actually, that's a perfect.
That is a perfect
analogy.
Yeah.
And I would know. I've been there. I've been in that exact spot.
So this is the one that does a time skip, yes?
Yeah, so about 2 episodes into this newest season 4, they do a time skip 7 years
Riverdale Shippuden
into the future. And so the main cast have all moved on. I won't go into each of the individual storylines, but like Archie joins the army for like at the last minute. And then characters split up, even though they've been in a relationship for the entire series, just to cause another storyline drama thing. And there's another murderer on the loose. Well,
it wouldn't be Riverdale if there wasn't a murderer on the loose.
Exactly. There's got to be another murderer on the loose. There's got to be a supernatural entity, although not really supernatural.
Fascinating.
It's, I mean, okay. Would I recommend Riverdale to anybody? Probably. No. I kind of would. I would say watch the first 2 episodes, or at least the first episode of season 1. And if you're not hooked by that, move on. Because there's plenty of other actually good shows out there. Which is what I did. Yeah, so you gave it a shot, at least. I'm not going to, like, harp you for it, but it's just... I started watching this show with a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, to kind of, like, just casually dig at it. Like, hey, this show sucks, and, you know, it's poorly written, the characters are terrible. And then by, 4 hours later, we'd watch 4 episodes, and we're like... Hit that bitch! Hit that! Like, we were talking to the TV screen. Yeah. Wanting, one mother character to slap another mother character for talking to the daughter of the other mother. So it's just like... It's like watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It's like watching any reality show. You kind of get fully invested in it just because of how much drama there is.
How ridiculous it is.
Yeah, you don't really... I don't know. It's just kind of fun.
You don't enjoy it from a quality standpoint. You enjoy it from a fun standpoint.
Right. Yeah. And it's just ridiculous to see how the characters both progress and regress within
like
within episodes.
Band.
Like, so by the beginning of season 4, characters have either... Every single character in the cast has either killed someone or been responsible for the killing of someone, or have seen somebody die right in front of them.
Why is no one in prison?
Because by season 4, there's only one guy who's running the entire... There's only one sheriff, and that's it.
It's because all the other sheriffs were killed.
No, it's because Veronica Lodge's dad, Hiram Lodge, who's the husband... I forgot his name, the actor's name. But he's married to Kelly Ripa, I think. Anyway, very attractive guy. He's basically trying to run Riverdale into the ground to start his own city for some reason.
Like Oceanville.
Kind of, yeah. Trying to start his own like separate town. It's dumb drama, and I don't know why I want to talk about it. But I got it out of my system.
Can I suggest a descriptor for it, and you'll be able to tell me whether or not it's spot on.
Okay.
Low quality Baby's First Twin Peaks.
No, not at all.
Oh, really? Okay. Because when you're sitting there describing the ins and outs.
I would say with the first season, it starts off Twin Peaks-esque. Okay. But I think that was kind of to lead in people who were interested in that kind of show. Like, it starts off, every season is a murder mystery. There's always some character who's died or somebody who goes missing that they need to find. Except for, I think, part of one season, because there's like a cult, but separate thing. Anyway, it's a lot to unpack. Anyway, it's not really a Baby's First anything, and it doesn't have a low production value at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they use the same sets because the characters always congregate there.
It's not low production at all. Let me run down the ways it's low production.
I mean, I'm willing to rip into this show while also still enjoying it and still willing to watch the next episode.
Yeah.
And I'm the day it ends, I'll be okay. I'll be content.
Not only will it be okay, you'll raise your arms to the heavens and go, "Thank God!"
Ah, finally. I thought it was going to end with the last season because with the first 2 episodes they graduate high school. The main cast.
I thought you were going to start that with. I thought it was going to end with the Lich.
with just
there's a Lich.
Yeah, with a zombie horde coming towards the high school. No, it never gets too crazy, but it gets crazy enough to where you're like, what the fuck is what? Why? And you'll say that at least once per episode.
I wish I could get into it because it does sound like dumb fun.
You were watching it with the wrong person. You have to watch it with other people to rip into it. Casey's shrugging in the. Oh, I thought you were shrugging to what we were talking about. Sorry.
She doesn't care about what we're talking about.
Well, because you
Wait,
turn over,
this way.
as I was saying,
Because
you were
mentioned
watching it with the wrong person.
I watched the show with the first time, and the person I watched the show with the first time is over there.
Yeah. And then you shrugged at the perfect time. And I was just like, oh, okay. Makes sense.
Sorry, I wish I could say that it was in relation to what you're
It's okay.
Yeah, that's
It's
fine. She just tunes me out anytime anyway.
It's like, why do we even get out of bed in the morning? You know what I mean?
Indeed, yes.
Every morning.
Every morning.
Every fucking morning. Oh, man, I was really good with my not cursing thing. Oh, shit.
Oh, well, now that you did it once, you gotta just...
Sorry, little baby ears. Fuck. I think that's it. I got it out of my system. Let's dive into the news.
Yeah. Okay.
News. News.
That was probably the most, like, regal and, like... Yeah, like...
I got you.
Kind of take you've done on it.
I come up with... It's a new tune on the spot every time.
New tune on the spot.
Yeah.
Okay, so first up
That's
on
tots.
news. What?
Tune on the spot. Tots.
Tune on the... What?
TOTS. Unless you want to add the new...
Tots.
So then it's tots.
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 People have already tuned out, so I don't give a fuck. They never get this far
It's a
into
good
the podcast.
attitude. Good attitude to have.
Fuck it.
All right, so first up on the news, Amazon has revealed that the sequel to Coming to America, which is the number 2 America.
You didn't have to.
No, I have to. I have to.
Coming to
America. Has had the biggest streaming movie debut during the pandemic.
That seems wrong to me.
Um,
You want to know why? Because I feel like Borat's subsequent movie film...
I mean, something to take this with a grain of salt by is it is Amazon who is the provider of Coming to America.
I mean, yeah. So I would say if we had all of the numbers for views of their content, of their original content for each streaming platform, Amazon would not be in the top 3.
Are you talking about like on an average basis?
On an average basis. If you use every subscriber to their platform,
Yes.
average out all of the hours for their original content
Yes,
that they release on their platform, I would say that Amazon is not in the top 3.
I would agree. At this point, yeah.
Yes, as of today.
Yeah.
Okay, then we're in agreement.
Yes.
It's odd that Coming to America
good
is...
conversation.
Well, no, I would say Coming to America, even out of Amazon's original content slate for the last year, I would say that that's odd.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've heard, I haven't watched the sequel yet. But from what I heard, it's a decent movie that
I've heard good things.
Technically doesn't need to exist, but if you watch it, you have fun with it.
Right.
You know, like it's a unnecessary sequel, but if you sit down and turn it on, you're gonna have a laugh or two.
2
or 2.
Perfect.
Which is more than I had in Tom and Jerry.
Oh, got him.
Swish.
Are you sweating?
Probably. I'm always sweating.
Okay.
Thanks for calling attention to it.
Now the audio listeners know too.
Yeah, so like I would take this with a grain of salt. I could feasibly imagine that this is true, but one, it's Amazon saying it, who again was
could be inflating
the service that released the movie, and they're doing it with, they haven't released actual numbers. They're just saying we had the biggest release,
right.
Which
it could just be for press releases,
yeah,
and article titles.
So
gotta make sure our original content is in the news headlines for at least 24 hours.
Oh yeah. Okay, so moving on. I talked about Tom and Jerry. Well, Tom and Jerry actually had a bit of an interesting rollout.
You haven't moved past Tom and Jerry.
It's not so much about Tom and Jerry as a different movie, but Tom and Jerry, I think in like its second week of release, maybe at the end of its first, people tuning in to watch it had a bit of a surprise when they first started, and that's because someone done goofed. And instead of putting the Tom and Jerry file on HBO Max,
drag that MP4 over.
They put the Justice League Snyder Cut MP4 file on. So when people went to go watch Tom and Jerry, they got about an hour and a half into Justice League, the Snyder Cut, before Warner Brothers was like, "Ah, fuck!"
And they pulled everything and then put in the right file.
Yes, they pulled it eventually. It sounds like people who were lucky, quote unquote, enough to catch that got about half of the way through the movie,
which I guarantee you gives them blue balls, or at least the people who. Well, no,
I don't know. What's the cross section for Tom and Jerry?
Tom and Jerry and Justice
Cut?
League. That's a good question.
Because I have a feeling most of the people who went to go watch Tom and Jerry are not the ones, or rather, the most of the people who are waiting for the Snyder Cut were not going to watch Tom and Jerry.
I don't know. It's a very small center of the Venn diagram.
Yes, it is. So that's funny. Whoopsie! Don't do that. Someone might be in trouble there.
Oh, someone definitely got fired.
Yeah. Moving on. Netflix is testing out
got fired.
What?
A hero got fired.
A hero or a villain?
I mean, in context with the story,
trying
it's a
to push along the apocalypse to earlier time frame
by like a few weeks. Yeah. You know, if it was something else, if like for some reason the Matrix was done like completely, and it was the Matrix 4 instead, that would be different. That'd be different, you know.
That you were interested in that?
Well, no, I would say it would be more exciting of a news story as opposed to a movie that was coming out anyway in a couple of weeks.
I just think it's funny because the Snyder Cut.
Well, yeah, that's coming from you, who has no vested interest whatsoever.
No, whatsoever.
Which makes me wonder if I should even watch it for content for the podcast, because you won't give a fuck.
Yeah,
should I invest 4 hours of my life?
I keep thinking, I should watch Batman v Superman. And they go right into Justice League, the original cut, and then do Snyder Cut. But that's a lot.
That's a lot, and you shouldn't. At this point, don't waste 7 hours on a movie that will absolutely, but it's like at the bare minimum, go okay.
But I want to know. I want to know.
I can tell
how different it is. But you're telling me that you're not going to watch it.
Well, I'm willing to go through that adventure with you. Watch Batman v Superman.
See how the story has changed immediately.
Stop pointing, sir. The 3 fingers back at you or whatever. What am I doing with my hand?
This is the point episode.
Yeah.
What's the point?
What's the point? I am willing to go through that quote unquote adventure with you if it means getting better context for when the movie comes out.
You say that
with this expression.
For those who can't see Nick's face as he's looking at me, he is saying this with the most disdain possible.
I don't want to spend any more time on this Snyder DC.
Well, then
universe.
let me do what I'm going to fucking do. Don't shame me for it.
I don't know. I just want you to be happy.
Thank you. Moving on. Netflix is testing out a new, I guess, function. Yeah. I don't know how else to describe it. That is probably going to piss some people off. So over the last couple days, a test function has been rolling out to a few subscribers, basically saying that if you're accessing Netflix in a different IP address than normal,
right,
or you have multiple streams going in different IP addresses, the service will catch that and ask you to verify your account via an email being sent to the main account holder or whatever.
Right.
By pretty much, trying to curtail any password sharing that people might be doing.
Right. The thing that they've been quote unquote having to deal with for for the entirety of their service.
Right. So it is worth noting that at this point, it's you can just kind of like ignore it. You can just say verify later and nothing will happen. And it's not a major thing that's going around. It's only to a small selection of subscribers.
Right.
So you'll see Netflix do this occasionally. They did the same thing where some areas were being allowed access to like the first 2 or so episodes of some of their original titles.
Right. Kind of like
free,
as a preview.
For free.
Yeah.
As opposed to having to subscribe to get those first episodes.
Peacock is doing that.
Yes, yeah. Well, and it was
free
after Peacock did their rollout of that.
Oh,
I
see.
Netflix did that. So, yeah, they'll test things like that occasionally. So at this point, if you're sharing a Netflix account, nothing too alarming quite yet, but it is interesting that they're kind of toying with this.
So let me ask you this.
No.
Okay. Do you think Netflix is justified in doing this?
I mean, it's their business, so justified would,
actually, let me rephrase. Do you think Netflix is right about doing this?
So what I will say is, I don't like it, but that's
coming from a consumer
point of view. But I understand why they would do it, other than the fact that this is a move that up until now, they haven't really been concerned with password sharing.
Right.
We've seen in the past that they've done interviews in which they have basically just outright said password sharing is something you just have to get used to as a streaming service, because there's no way to combat it. And quite frankly, there's reasons why you would be sharing an account. Married couples, kids using their parents' accounts, that kind of thing. Now, Granted, typically those are within the same household, but within this switch is new, just based off of what they've said in the past. Do I think it's a wise move when we're getting as crowded as we are?
Yeah.
And you have people seriously considering whether or not they're going to sign up for Paramount Plus? Probably not, because at this rate, it used to be 2 years, 1 year even, you ask someone what would be your 3 services to keep for streaming, right? Invariably, one of them would always be Netflix, no matter what.
Right.
Because it's the streaming service. It's the one everyone has.
Yeah.
We're getting to a point now where Netflix's value propositions are considerably lower than its competition. They do have originals, and this isn't really that fair to Netflix because 1, it's older, but 2, every service does this no matter what. But they do have a reputation of canceling shows just within the public sphere. Whether or not that's fair is a different story. And they have been, kind of losing some of their edge and definitely their real estate to these other streaming services. Yeah. When you have Disney pulling all their properties off your service because
that was a big blow.
They have theirs that they're doing. That's a huge blow. We saw it with
The Office and Friends.
Office and Friends with Peacock too. The Office and Friends were the first and second most streamed shows on Netflix
for years.
Yeah,
years
up until they left the service.
Yeah,
they were the top 2.
Yeah.
So we're getting to a point now where you really have to have faith in Netflix's originals and like what they're putting out.
From both a consumer and even a stockholder point of view.
Well, I think we've talked about this before, but Netflix is actually very similar to Amazon, which at this rate they don't make any money.
Yeah,
they just don't.
It's all about market share.
based off of what they spend and like what they, of course, what they pull in. Yeah, they're more focused on market share. That's
Right.
how they get the success that they do. You're starting to lose that market share now,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to directly translate into how much you can invest in your new shows, and might also mean less new shows. We already saw kind of this with the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
where you had all these like Netflix was just pummeling viewers.
Well, they're doing it
with
now
new
this
shows.
year with one new original. I don't know if they said movie or if they
I
specified
think it was just
one
thing.
new original piece of content every week,
Yeah,
at least.
and that's not like a long-term viable plan,
No.
because invariably you're going to lose some stuff, and you already lost stuff to the pandemic. We saw a bunch of Netflix shows canceled.
Mhm.
I talked about the Society a while back, which was in line with like Riverdale. That's gone, so
Yeah.
I don't have to watch.
That's not
that.
coming back.
I don't have to watch that, thankfully.
And I don't have to worry about starting it because I know it'll end on a cliffhanger.
But a lot of shows were like that this past season. They're just like, we can't commit to these many shows when it's so hard, one, for production
Yeah.
to occur regardless, but now also because we have to do better quality wise. Like, we can't just do shotgun blast to the wall, although we're going to do shotgun blast to the wall for a full year with their 2021 slate.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Which is terrible because like they are more worried about market share than they are worried about the audiences that are attached to each of their original
Yes.
shows or movies. So you get like the movies like To All the Boys I Loved Before, which again is adapted from a book series.
And the last one just came out recently.
Yeah, recently.
Yeah.
And it was big. It was huge because they released them on Valentine's Day every time. But like you get Karate Kid, you get Stranger Things, you get the shows that they know have huge audiences, and you never really know year to year whether or not it's going to be around.
Right. Well, and Cobra Kai is an interesting one, because you mentioned Karate Kid, is an interesting one.
That's what I meant, Cobra Kai. I said Karate Kid.
I knew what you meant.
Gotcha.
That's an interesting one because that's not their original programming.
Right, it was
that's YouTube, which they bought from. So now you're getting more into that kind of Friends and Office territory again. And hey, Cobra Kai has been huge for them.
Yeah.
They've already
a huge get.
greenlit like 2 more seasons, I think, of that success. So there's like obviously this balancing act that they need to do with acquiring new properties, or creating new properties rather, and acquiring ones that will drive people to stay with them or come over to them,
especially with them upping the subscription price,
right?
As well.
Because on the flip side, I got it in here as well. Disney Plus just topped 100 million subscribers.
Yep.
So they're a big opponent in the streaming wars at this point. Obviously there's going to be some cross section in those audiences, but obviously Disney Plus had a big drive in terms of kid friendly content,
right?
And you're seeing that over at Paramount Plus as well. They're trying to kind of drive their kid friendly content as an additional thing with their adult oriented stuff.
Is it like SpongeBob Krusty Club or something?
There's Star Club, I think, is the Patrick one. Yeah, we didn't do that last week, but there's a Patrick Star spinoff that they're doing.
Yeah, they're doing that, but
and then Camp Krusty or something.
Camp
like
Krusty.
That.
Okay,
The 3D
I was
one,
like,
yeah.
Krusty Club doesn't sound right.
Krusty Club. It definitely doesn't sound right, but yeah, you got 100 million subscribers. Not all of those are gonna be subscribed at the same time to Netflix.
Right.
So you got to imagine that a good chunk of that are people just dropping Netflix entirely,
moving over to Disney Plus.
And if they don't kind of do better about their just general content offerings, I think they're going to be in real trouble, especially if they keep going back to our original conversation, which we strayed a little bit from, this introduction of subscription policing,
right?
If you piss enough people off, and you're like the only reason I'm paying for this is so my brother the next state over can watch it,
right?
I never use it, But then if you're like, if you're telling me that I can't pay my brother's Netflix subscription and then also access it just whenever I want to,
Yeah.
then I'm just going to drop it and I'll, say
So-
he has to pay for his
That's
own
why you got to
thing.
do what I do with my mom is she pays for Netflix and Hulu, and I pay for Disney Plus and Amazon Prime Video.
Okay,
So-
but see, feasibly, if they roll this out more, this
Right,
policing,
I wouldn't be able to have.
you wouldn't
that
be able to
access.
access it.
Yeah, and I got the other streaming services. That's the thing.
You do, but
I
that's what
would
I'm-
be on the shitty end of the stick, but
or you would just be on the stick without Netflix, which is what I'm saying. People would
Right.
make the decision to just drop Netflix if it becomes an issue.
I guess
If
I'm
it
just more
becomes
content
more
with
of
that.
a, huh?
I guess I'm just more content with that. I'm okay with losing Netflix if it means I
Yeah,
still have the other subscriptions.
I think a lot of people are. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to is instead of getting an extra one by doing this, you will run the risk of losing the one you have. Because people are like, well, I already have Disney Plus. I already have Peacock. I already have Paramount. I already have Hulu.
Yeah.
One of those has got to go eventually anyway, right?
A couple of those have
if
to
you're,
go.
If you're paying, if you individually are paying for all of those, then one of them's going to go eventually because you're going to think, I don't need the
I'm paying too
WWE
much.
network at Peacock. I don't need the Outer Banks or whatever. I think that's a Netflix show.
Yeah, it was a Netflix show. A terrible
So,
Netflix show.
I don't know. We'll see if it rolls out more, but for now, it's just kind of a minor thing.
Okay.
How we doing over there? We're over. Of course we are. All right. Well,
You got one more.
Yeah,
Time for one more story.
We'll get one more. It actually works out because it's the biggest one here. So Avatar is getting a surprise re-release in China.
In China,
Yes,
because they're safe over there and they can go back to movie theaters.
more or
Sorry.
less.
Sorry.
Maybe.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe. But technically, yes, sure.
They all. Yeah.
So
That's a loaded statement.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. But anyway, not going into that. So China re-released Avatar, and as right before, an hour or two before we sat down to record, it's actually looking like it's going to beat out Endgame again.
Yeah.
For the highest grossing movie.
Do they not have Disney Plus in China?
I don't think they do.
Oh,
I think that's one of the regions that does not have Disney Plus.
that
What if they have anything, and I don't even think they have this because it's a European thing, is Star,
Oh, that's right.
which is the amalgamation kind of service that has
You know what they probably have? Red Star. Got him.
good
Take
one.
that, CCCP. CCCP.
So yeah, I think this is funny. Quite frankly, just base level reaction to this because we saw a big hubbub about Endgame re-releasing or extending its release kind of window way back when, and it was seen as kind of a excuse to beat out Avatar
Right.
for highest grossing movie, just so you can put that on a movie, like a DVD box or a poster or whatever, highest grossing movie of all time.
Right.
So if you look at it in a cynical way, that would be the takeaway. But now we're kind of seeing the reverse of Avatar being like, oh, okay, you re-released. We're going to re-release too. This is after, I don't know if you remember, Avatar has already had a re-release.
Yeah.
A year, I think it was a year after.
I don't even think it's in 3D. I think it's just the 2D normal version.
Yep.
Because nobody cares.
Let's see if it says here.
Well, and imagine, even though it's releasing in China and they're probably taking every precaution possible, it's still imagine getting a plastic baggie with those 3D glasses and you're like, yeah, put these on your face.
Yeah. It does not say.
I'm
sure it's just a normal one though.
That's a conversation for another time. Is in a post-pandemic world, do we ever go back to 3D? Or if it became another
I
fad?
hated 3D the first time it came around, so but I have glasses, so
Nerd.
I would be paying double the price to still not see. And somehow see even worse.
Yeah, probably. I think it's interesting. I think a lot of the people online that I saw reading this headline and freaking out and saying, "Oh, re-release Avengers Endgame just so I can feel something again," and then I got really introspective and sad because I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to feel that." But I think that them re-releasing Avatar again is not really. It's not really trying to make any point at all. I think it was just because
so that's what I was going to say. Is this isn't the only one they're re-releasing?
Right.
They're re-releasing a bunch of popular movies alongside it as well as kind of a like, hey, we can all go back to movie theaters. Like, let's kind of stimulate this movie economy again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not the only one. It's just included in there. Obviously, if you're the second highest grossing movie of all time, of course that would be included.
Especially in as huge a market as China is.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, not that surprising. There's no, I don't think there's any ulterior motive other than get more money into movie theaters. But I'm sure investors are probably like, haha, we'll get it back.
Zoe Saldana with her residual checks is like, I win anyway.
At this point, it doesn't even matter because they're both owned by Disney.
Yeah.
So,
and us in America are just like, I mean, we'll turn on Disney Plus and watch it if we want to. Yeah. If we really enjoy Fern Gully, but in 3D with blue people.
Yes.
Same plot.
It's just true.
Just saying.
Hey, Fern Gully is a good movie.
It is a good movie. I think it's also on Disney Plus.
Yes.
So there you go. Watch Fern Gully instead.
Is it?
I don't know. Double check.
I think.
Or don't.
It might. I don't know.
Who cares? It's an old ass movie. Zach.
Yeah.
We're done with news.
We're done.
If people wanted to email in and tell us all about how much they appreciate Fern Gully, how would they do that?
You can email us at ferngully.
No, something easier.
Hold on. Trees are good at lightscameranonsense.com.
Trees are good at lightscameranonsense.com.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about how we are doing with this podcast and how fucked it is, please email in at treesaregood at lightscameranonsense.com, and we will read it aloud on the next episode of the podcast.
Indubitably.
I had my outro all. The fucking trees are good.
Zach fucked up Nick's outro at lightscameranonsense.com.
But this has been Lights Camera Nonsense, keeping you updated despite our best efforts. Make sure to tune in every week for all the latest news, reviews, and what else, Zach?
How do you do?
Yeah, I don't know if your mic picked that up.
How do you do?
Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Bye.